Hello and welcome. My name is Tara Kapitoff, intuitive healer, teacher, and guide, specializing in shadow work. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about shadow integration and why it's important to understand what it means and how you can work with your shadow to gain the greatest benefits from going inward and finding flow and comfort with your shadow. And so just to reiterate what the shadow is, it is the aspect of ourselves that we all have where our uncomfortable emotions, traits, and thoughts come from. So this can include anger, resentment, guilt, shame, fear, even criticism, judgment. And so these traits that we have in ourselves is part of ourself. You have your unique story, you have your unique experiences, but we all can relate to our shadow self because we all have that. And so the whole point of shadow work and understanding our shadow is so that we can reach our full potential and we can understand more about ourselves. And so the whole point of shadow work and understanding the shadow, going deeper within, not shying away from these aspects of ourselves, not feeling uncomfortable. I mean, you can feel uncomfortable. It's sometimes definitely can be uncomfortable, but not in a way of feeling bad about ourselves or that there's something wrong with ourselves. These are all experiences. And the more open we can be and honest we can be with ourselves about how we feel and what is happening within ourselves, then the more we will understand, the more conscious and aware we will become, and the more we will also be able to let go and release from these aspects within ourselves that are holding us back and that are creating the fears and creating these triggers and creating the way that we see and perceive our life and create the limitations from rising to our greatest potential, from manifesting, from being open for love and life and all the good things. And so shadow integration is when we become one with our shadow. It's not shying away from these uncomfortable aspects of ourselves or even looking at ourselves as flawed, as wrong, as our life being messed up and being a victim. It really is leaning into it and understanding these aspects within ourselves and connecting the dots. And most often times we have to go back into our past to see the patterns that are shaping out in our present life from our past conditioning or from societal conditioning or from just the way that we have felt within ourselves based on our subconscious belief system that has been ingrained since early life, most of our life. And so when we have these subconscious beliefs inside within our subconscious, and some of it is going to be very, very, very subterranean. Some is going to be in a level where you can identify through observation, through deepening your practice, your self-awareness. And as Carl Jung mentioned as well, too, he did mention that when we look inward, we also create a greater consciousness around our reality and around relationships. And so it's not only our internal practice that we're doing here when we do this work, when we recognize our shadow and when we go into our subconscious patterns and belief systems, it's also recognizing the true reality of what we are involved in, the relationships, people, society, life, so we start to begin that very profound process of awakening through the transition of integrating our shadow. And so what is shadow integration? Shadow integration is when we become understanding of our negative traits, our anger, our fears, what's holding us back, our limitations, our limiting false belief systems that we have within our subconscious that prevent us from fully self-manifesting or, again, opening our heart to love or seeing our reality from a different perspective. When we integrate our shadow, when we integrate these difficult aspects, for example, if you have a trigger and you automatically react in anger, then it is understanding it and feeling it, not labeling it and not criticizing yourself or getting mad at yourself, feeling it. Okay, I feel this. This is real. What does this mean? Where is it coming from? And I've mentioned this in many other videos before as well. It's really important to remember that when you are triggered, and this can come from a person, it can come from just life experiences, it can come from our subconscious beliefs as well. Our belief systems can just become triggered when we are self-manifesting or when we are trying to step into our full potential or break out of old patterns. These things can naturally become triggered within ourselves. When you become triggered, if it's anger, if it is fear, if it is any kind of emotion that could be difficult, it's really important not to label it or to look at ourselves as bad or that something is wrong with us. The ego might come in and create a very strong narrative about our story, about our reality, about people, about ourselves. But it's important to observe. It's important to get out of the ego. It's important to feel. And this is where our emotions and our senses come in, because our emotional self is it's kind of almost a little bit of our own translation system that we have within ourselves to understand these feelings and these emotions. And it is very, very easy to want to avoid our shadow self, because our shadow can be very uncomfortable and can bring up a lot of stuff from underneath, from below the surface, from our subconscious, or from buried traumas or emotions within. But our emotions are very, very important, and our feelings and our senses are very, very important. And I've mentioned this before as well. Our ability to sense and feel is our guidance system. All right. But going through life, and when we've had traumas, when we've had a lot of difficulties, we can suppress our emotions. We can suppress the experiences that are most difficult, but those experiences that we suppress end up coming up in different forms. And so it's important to be very gentle with ourselves, to be very easy on ourselves through this process, to just allow for flow to happen when we are feeling difficult energies. It's important not to ignore it or not to push it aside, but to go into it, to lean into it and just see what is preventing me from. Why am I being triggered from? So this life that we have is ours to create fully. People who are actors on our stage, people who are in our life are here to teach us things. And so it's up to us to see what we are learning from our deeper self through the interactions with others, rather than criticizing or shaming or blaming or having the triggers, the unconscious triggers like anger or resentment or fear even, from interacting with the world. And so shadow integration is when we can lean into these emotions that we have within ourselves. And it is very, very, very easy in our society to numb, to distance, to medicate, to suppress our emotions, our difficult emotions. But this is part of who we are. And when we allow ourselves to feel, and when we don't shy away from our really difficult emotions, then we are going to learn more about ourselves. Okay, maybe I need to make an adjustment. Maybe change needs to happen. Maybe I need to heal and resolve something that is buried deep within. Maybe there are attachments that I need to let go of. Maybe I need to work on integrating my whole self. And shadow is part of your whole self. Right? So we have the light and the dark in our existence. And the more that we can lean into this energy, the more we will understand about ourselves and bring our unconscious self into our conscious state. And so we gain more awareness within ourselves, and we begin the process of letting go, of healing, of releasing, and again, becoming more aware of what the true picture is within ourselves and within how we see and perceive our reality. And so, as I mentioned, these subconscious programs and the feelings that are a result of our subconscious beliefs and programs give us the answers and give us the guidance for our awakening process, transformation, manifestation. By spending some time in observing and feeling, then you are going to understand more about yourself. So this is not about blaming. This is not about shaming self or feeling ashamed. This is not about being a victim. This is not about pointing fingers at other people. It is about observing, and it's not about labeling, It is feeling. It is feeling and sensing. How do I feel? How am I responding? What is really deep? What is maybe holding me back or preventing me from moving forward or enjoying a certain aspect in my life, right? Or how am I responding to certain situations in my life based on maybe a false belief that I have within myself. And so we have to go into the whys within and feel into this source reason, perhaps, or the actual feeling and emotion of what is being created within ourselves. And as I mentioned, we all have our shadow self. We're in a huge timeline right now of shifting out of these old belief patterns, right? So you can look at many aspects within yourself. Fear can hold us back, fear can lock us in, and fear can be very subconscious, meaning that you may not even realize how fear is playing into your life until you can actually really reflect and be honest with yourself. And it really means letting go of control, letting go of the knowing, needing to analyze, overanalyze, intellectualize. This is not about that. It is about feeling, and sensing. The only time you need your mind through this is to connect the dots, perhaps with maybe past conditioning, past experiences, and see how the past is affecting some of the factors within yourself today, as far as belief system, actions, reactions, perceptions, habits, maybe even some of the unconscious patterns that you may find yourself in, or what you might be attracting in your life. So this is our playground right now of self-development, of spiritual development, of awakening, if you want to call it, whatever you are focusing on and whatever you are wanting to heal. And even for manifestation practices, it is all going to come down to your shadow. Okay, so your shadow is your key to your light, to your manifestation, to your wholeness, to your awakening, to your higher consciousness, all of it. Okay, so we have to go through our shadow in order to understand ourselves more, and in order to release from the grips of our unconscious behaviors and wounds and energies that are limiting us. All right, so you can look at all the different aspects, such as fear, as I mentioned, even anger. How is anger coming up? How can you feel into it? And it's difficult with anger sometimes because we can suppress it, or we can let it out, into the world. So there's that fine line, because it does need to channel its way out, because if we hold on to it within ourselves, it can cause inflammation. It can cause skin issues. It can cause gut issues. It can be really hard on the body. All of these factors can be really hard on the body. And if you caught some of my other videos too, I do talk about how our body is our last resort. Our body is talking to us because we need to listen. And so when our body starts to kick in, it's really sending you a signal that something needs to be looked at deeper within in order for you to let that body issue go and resolve something on a deeper level. And so even if you think of criticism is being judgmental, being critical. This is right, this is wrong, that person's right, that person's wrong. How dare they do that? Why are they like that? I can't believe they behave that way. Or even inward on ourselves. Maybe I'm not good enough. I don't like how I look. I don't like, why did I do that? We do this all to ourselves. And so it's all coming from our programming. It's all coming from our subconscious programming. And criticism leads to arthritis, hardening of the attitudes. It's a very restrictive and constrictive energy. So you can see how the energy and the frequency plays out within our body, and within how we also the energy that we admit into the universe, into our relationships as well. So we are sending signals out, and people will pick up on our energy consciously and unconsciously. Our energy does affect other people, and vice versa, right? We are all connected at the end of the day. So it's really important to be aware. And all this does is give you greater awareness of self. Shadow integration is understanding and feeling and working through the process in a healthy and constructive way. Again, not labeling, not being critical, not being hard on self, just awareness. And if you're going through any triggers or anything that is within the shadow, work through constructive ways of releasing, giving yourself some time to work through the situations, putting constructive processes in place for you to work out of it and to get you moving forward towards what you are wanting to manifest and who you want to be. There are many different modalities as well, and different practices that you can incorporate along with this to release and to understand yourself in a deeper way. And also, if you want some personal guidance through your journey, I do offer one-on-one shadow work where I go into subconscious programming, I go into release work and identifying some of the factors within that you can use also for yourself moving forward for self-reflection and observation. So if you're interested in that, there's going to be a link below in the description box to book a session. But otherwise, self-observation is going to be key. Okay, this is all about awakening to our senses, our consciousness, and our true authentic self. And the shadow is going to be the key to find that, to connect with it, and to feel it more. We need our emotions and our senses and our feelings is our navigational system. So if we feel tense, if we feel uncertain, it is trying to tell us something, okay? And what is real versus what is happening within our subconscious, within our belief patterns that are limiting, that are false. What can we look at to break those patterns and realize, okay, that's actually not the truth of my reality. Is coming from a deeper place. All right, so I hope this offered you additional guidance for your manifestation and transformation journey. If you want any more additional information, or if you have questions, or you would like to book a one-on-one session, the links are below, and I'm wishing you all the best with your manifestation, transformation, and healing journey. Until next time, see you soon and take care.